Measurement in metrics. This table represents the prefixes and values associated with the metric system. Notice that each prefix and value also has a symbol, except for the basic unit, which represents meters, grams, and liters. So you add a prefix onto any of the basic units depending on what you're measuring. For example, if I was trying to measure a very small distance or object, I would use milli, but then I would also use meter since I'm measuring length. Milli represents a very small unit, whereas kilo represents a very large unit. We will always use the metric system in science. I want to know how to measure how far I throw the ball to Willow when I'm at the beach, but I'm not sure what to do. Length represents the distance between 2 points, or sometimes we use it to measure how long something is. We measure length using a meter stick. The basic unit is meters, but notice the picture on the right shows you that one side is in inches, which is super spaced out and goes up to only 39, and the other side has very small units and goes up to 100. That represents millimeters, and that is the side that we would use. To measure a very far distance, I would use meters. Like the example of throwing the ball for Willow at the beach, I'd use meters, whereas if I use centimeters, that would be for a very small object or small distance. I wonder what the difference between Willow's mass and weight is. Mass is the amount of matter in an object, so think molecules, atoms, and cells. Mass and weight are two totally different things and cannot be interchanged. Look at the picture on the right. It shows that the person's mass never changes regardless of where they are in the solar system, but their weight changes depending on where they are. Weight is basically how much does gravity have to work to keep you on the ground. So Willow's weight would change if she was on the moon, but the mass, the number of things that make up Willow, would not change. We measure mass with a triple beam balance or an electronic scale, which that's most likely what we'll use in class. The basic unit is grams. So if it's small, we're just going to use milligrams, and if it's a large object, kilograms. I wonder how Willow's volume has changed from when she was a puppy to now that she's older. Volume is the amount of space an object takes up. So kind of think like its size. We measure volume using a few different methods. First, you can use the overflow can if it's an irregular object, or you could use a graduated cylinder if it's an irregular object that fits nicely within the cylinder. Otherwise, you can use the typical length times width times height to measure. To get the volume of Willow, I would use something like an overflow can since she's not a regular sized object. An overflow can simply lets out water into a cup that represents the size of the object. Or you could use a graduated cylinder and see how much the water has risen, and that gives you the volume. We measure volume in liters.